anyone want to go first particularly, or should I pick?
Do you want to go
Let's
first?
start.
Why don't you go first and I'll see
Okay.
how this works.
So, Briga, uh, in some location near the singing stones.
Okay, so you are sort of wandering along this high rolling landscape with these carved, stones are dotted here and there with faces, like stylized faces of warriors and chieftains, and there's the stones are sort of pierced with holes in various places, and that's why they sing. The wind howls across this plain, and you hear these keening notes as it passes through the stones. And so there's this sort of, the sky is gray. There's this eerie, multi-pitched, sort of strange wind music just throbbing through the air, and there's a bit of a chill in the air that makes you shudder. And
I'd imagine that Briga would occasionally go up to one of the stones and just check out the effects, like when you kind of block up part of the holes, like how the sound might change.
Okay. So you're playing with your own musical composition with the stone.
Yeah, just trying to see if I can change pitches on the sounds coming through them and stuff.
When you hear the voices of two men calling out, and they're calling out over and over again, Gunda, which is a woman's name. And you sort of look around for the source, and you see two men who are you actually recognize that they are Sun people. That is, they have sort of like long blonde hair done up in braids, with braids in their beards, wearing, sort of, one's wearing a red tunic, one's wearing a blue tunic, and they see you and sort of approach and hail you, and one says, "Stranger, have you seen a woman here, a woman of our people?"
No, I can't say that I have. To tell you the truth, though, I haven't really been on the lookout for anybody. I haven't really. This seems like a fairly uninhabited area that I'm walking through.
Okay, so the one guy says, "Well, you seem well able to take care of yourself, but you should know that this is a dangerous area. There are trolls wandering around here, and they don't always take kindly to humans. Unfortunately, our sister has been enchanted or maddened by the music of the stones, which is not good for human beings to hear, and she's run off into the stones for God knows what reason. It is for that reason that we're here, to try to find her and take her back. And if I may impose, as you seem to be a strong person, a person of great stature, we have money to spend, and we could spare a little to hire you to help us out in case we run into any of these trolls."
Uh, well, I'm not familiar with the trolls around these parts, but have you done anything to make the trolls upset?
Us? No, I not upset them. It's just that humans don't normally come to these parts, and you know, trolls. Who can understand what they'll take offense to? Am I right?
Well, trolls come in all sorts of shapes and sizes, I suppose. I certainly have met some trolls that have been a bit ornery, but others have been more peaceful. But I'm not familiar with the trolls of these parts. And what is the magic that these singing stones hold? You said that Gunda has been enchanted by the sound. I mean, it's a lovely sound that they make, but I don't know that I would call it enchanting. I mean, in the sense of causing harm or charming somebody.
Well, sometimes things that are dangerous seem innocuous at first glance. Over the years, many stories tell of people who have been enraptured by this strange music. Not me personally. I think it sounds appalling. But when they run off, they're never heard from again. And so it is for that reason
You know,
that we've
uh,
come in all haste to try to find our sister before it's too late.
okay. I certainly would not turn you down. Although I would say that I would see my service more in terms of finding your sister and making sure that she's safe than kind of getting into any kind of tussle with trolls.
Okay, let's see. How would he respond to that? So the first brother says, "Very well, we're not looking for trouble, but if there are trolls between us and our sister, we will have to go through them."
I take out Briga, takes out her dagger and says, "Well, I'm somebody who can hold my own in a fight." But then, she quickly also sheathes her dagger and says, "But I generally find other ways of resolving problems a little bit more effective."
He says, "Well, we all hope that it won't come to any dangerous or bloody work. But if this suits you, then he'll, you know, offer a little pouch of coins and say, we'll be happy to have you along."
Okay, and does he give me the pouch?
Yes, he gives you the pouch.
Uh, yeah, and Abriga probably doesn't immediately look in there, but just probably kind of tosses it in her hand,
Right.
weight, getting the weight of it, and then she kind of puts it in her backpack.
Okay. And I probably that's enough for the scene as you all set off in a direction into the hills of the Singing Stones.
Hmm.
And so we can come back to that in a bit, but let's look at what Vulgaria is gotten into. And so, the Rotten Teeth are these little craggy, tall islands in the sea, and normally you're supposed to start a scene walking somewhere, but it seems like you would have to ride a little boat to these places. But maybe you've pulled up a boat onto the shore of one of these places where you see where you've seen some, on the top of this sort of tall vertical island, you've seen these little beehive shaped huts and dwellings with sort of ropes and ladders hanging over the side of the cliff of the island so that people can come and go. And there is sort of some business going on the island. As there are other boats parked, moored at, or just pulled up on shore, really, on this sort of pebbly shore of the island, with that look like they have kind of supplies or different packs and weapons waiting in them. And there are some men in like brown robes, like monks' robes type things, are sort of coming up and down the rope ladders with carrying, maybe carrying like a big, like skin, like leather vessels full of water, and they've got some weapons, some spears and shields, even though they look more like scholars than fighters, but they seem to be gearing up for something. And as you're watching them come down, a couple of them are trying to lower by ropes something like a really large, heavy stone altar, and you see the ropes start fraying and snapping, and you hear voices yelling, help, someone help us with this.
Am I on the shore already?
Yeah, you're on the shore, or pretty much wherever you want to be.
Okay. I guess Vulgaria runs up, and how far up is the altar? Like, how far up is it dangling?
It's sort of halfway down, so it's maybe about halfway down, maybe about 10 or 15 feet up. And what they seem to be worried about is that they've got a bunch of boxes already stacked at the bottom of this ladder, and they're worried about them being crushed by the altar if it falls, or the altar falling. The altar is made of stone, so I guess it's not in any danger itself, but
okay.
That's sort of what they're doing right now.
Okay, I guess I run up and start moving the boxes out of the way. I just kind of go, like, blaring through a bunch of people and just start heaving boxes to the side so that they're out of the way.
Okay, well, this is, it's a pretty low-stakes situation, but it might merit a fighting conflict.
All right.
Just because there's the possibility of, something going south.
All right.
So I'm going to say this is a fighting conflict, and the pace is one roll, so it's a pass or fail, where you'll roll once, and you'll either succeed or fail on one roll. Although if you fail, you can try re-rolling to get a better result.
All right.
Okay. Yeah, and with the pacing, so with the conflict, either the GM can call for the conflict or you can call for it,
Mm-hmm.
and whoever calls for it can offer the pacing.
Mm-hmm.
So he said it's kind of like an all or nothing.
Right.
Now you can take that to a, what do they call the middle one? It's the is it crisis to crisis?
It's clash by clash and
The
action
clash.
by action.
Okay, you can go to a clash by clash, which would mean 2 out of 3 successes.
Mm-hmm. What would be the point of like not doing that?
Well, I mean, it's
Would that just be like for if your adrenaline's really going and like things are like,
yeah.
really
If you just feel like the situation deserves more attention, that kind of draws it out a little more.
Right. Okay. I think I'm fine with the 1 pacing. I think that's
yeah. It's not
reasonable. Yeah. So 1d6 or is it this one?
Yeah. So you're going in there and moving some boxes.
Moving some boxes out of the way. Hopefully I don't hurt anyone in the process. 4. So I got it within my range.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you're fine.
Got a 4. Yeah.
So you quickly, muscle these guys aside and just take a huge stack of boxes and set them aside and hit the dirt sort of just as the altar comes crashing down and spraying this sort of pebbles and debris everywhere. One thing that's noteworthy is that when you succeed on a roll, I narrate it, but if you were to fail, you sort of get to narrate how that failure happens.
Oh, what fun. Okay.
So, but you did succeed, so I'm saying what happens.
All right.
As you pick yourself up and you can dust yourself off and look around and you see that the boxes that you've just saved, when I say boxes, I guess for this setting, they're probably more like, they're kind of like woven baskets. They've now become baskets instead of boxes, but they're sort of square, like tightly woven baskets, but they're filled with clay stopper jars filled with what you can only assume to be beer or mead or wine or something like that. And one of the men in brown robes approaches you and says, "Thank the heavens that you were able to help us with that. We would have no way of paying for supplies on the mainland if we didn't, have our signature mead to sell."
I kind of like bow to the monk and say, "No thanks necessary. I'm just glad to have been of service."
All right, he says, certainly, if there's anything we can do, we're happy to oblige. This is a man, I guess, in his 50s with a sort of long, bristly beard and shaven head, and he says, "It's unusual for us to see a visitor from other lands on this island. Is there anything in particular you came looking for, or?"
I had just heard legends of this place where one can come to truly be one with the world around them and one with the rocks in particular. I show my green algae rock and I say, "As you can see, this is a passion of mine." And then I kind of huddle my rock away.
He says, I see you're a thinker. Well, you have found yourself in good company, for we are all here devoted to meditating, contemplating the ocean and the rocks as we attempt to solve the riddles of Yorn.
The riddles of Yorn?
Yes, Yorn, the mighty prophet of old, who left us his strange riddles, which if solved, they say, will bring about world peace and tranquility forever, if only human beings can understand them.
Do you have these riddles?
They are written on various documents in our monastery. The one I'm currently working on is how many grains of sand can fit in a grain of sand.
These are.
It's not one, by the way. Everyone thinks it's one. But
I should certainly hope not. No. Well, would it be possible for me to observe these scrolls?
Um, he says, certainly, certainly. But the matter of the supply run to the mainland must be attended to first. I can't help but notice that you are a person of mighty thieves. Everyone notices that Trollbabes are big and strong. It's apparently that's my go-to. Maybe I'll think of another. Maybe I'll think of another angle next time I play this. But we could use help. As you can see, we are arming ourselves for the raid, but we are not fighting men. But we have much to fear from the horrible, horrible sea people who attack us and attempt to steal our mead. And on the way back, the food and the many important things we get in exchange for our mead. And so, if we could have you help us out on this little trip.
I take a knee and I cross my hand over my chest and I say, I swear to you that I will do my best to help you keep this sacred land free from war and whatnot, and the sea people.
Okay. He's like, goodness, how earnest. Well, all right then. You are now a sailor, and here is your mighty ship. As he points to like these sort of dugout boats that are they're not very long at all, or sort of what are they called, Chorus? They're planning not short trip in very small boats, which you came here in a small boat. It's doable. I'm just sort of contemplating the, in our modern age, we never really do a lot of boating in small precarious craft.
No, we do not. A tragedy.
Yeah, but these people seem to do it all the time and be perfectly accepting of the risk. So that's what's going to happen now. And so I think we can close that scene for the time being and head back to Briga, wandering the wastes of the Singing Stones.